Welcome to Dads and Dollars podcast with your host, Stanley Funches, certified financial planner, business owner, author, speaker, and father of three. Listen as Stanley shares his valuable insights around fatherhood and finances gained from over 20 plus years of experience. You'll hear stories, lessons learned, and the ups and downs he and his guests have encountered on their journeys as fathers, professionals, and business owners. These shared lessons will help provide you a path for financial independence while celebrating the challenges of being a dad. Thank you for joining the conversation. Here's your host, Stanley Funches.
Good day. Welcome to Dads and Dollars, the podcast where fatherhood and finances are woven into many life topics. My name is Stanley Funches. I am a certified financial planner by profession and a father of three in this thing called life. We are glad you can join us for season 1, episode 12. And in this episode, we're going to get you guys ready for 2023 and setting your financial goals. But first, I want to talk about someone special. All right, so I don't know if you guys know the cadence of when episodes are supposed to drop here for Dads and Dollars, but we're really on a bi-weekly schedule, and every other Wednesday we drop episodes. So our last time where episodes were to drop was a couple of Wednesdays ago, and we had a lot of things happening family-wise that threw us off schedule. So I want to dedicate this episode to my cousin, Robert Eugene Funches. He passed away in this time between these episodes, and we called him Gene. And he was a cousin to me, but he was more like a big brother to me, especially most of my childhood. And so it was a very difficult time for us. But today I want to dedicate this episode because when I announced that I was going to do this podcast, Dads and Dollars, he was so enthused about the prospects of me doing this podcast. He even said, "Hey, cuz, I want to be one of your guests. I want to be one of your guests, and I'm going to give the ghetto perspective of fatherhood." That was his way of joking and wanting to be a part of showing his enthusiasm for what we're doing here. And so obviously he will never get to be on this podcast, but today I'm dedicating this to him. See, because Gene was a loving husband, father of 5, a doting grandfather. He always talked about his grandkids. But to me, he was more, again, like my big brother growing up. We shared times together a lot at my grandmother's and grandfather's house. See, so him and my cousin Andrew, which we called him Bo. So Gene and Bo were raised by my grandmother and granddad. They were kids from a teenage mother, and Gene did not have a lot of interaction with his father growing up. So my dad, who at that time, Gene was about 3 years older than me. Bo was 2 years older than me. And so he was the first grandson of my grandparents, first grandchild of my grandparents. And so he got a lot of attention and a lot of love. And my grandfather and my dad acted as a surrogate father. My dad was probably about 17, 18 at the time. So he had those really good male figures in his life. But when I came along, and I spent a lot of time with Gene and Bo. I mean, I spent pretty much all my summers as I can remember, a vast majority of the time there, and weekends I would always ask to go and spend the weekend with them and stay with them. So we were the 3 kids on the block together, the Funches kids, and we had a great time. And the way our neighborhood was structured, especially back then, kids played outside. We knew each other. We hung out. We would all walk to the parks together. We hung out in kind of groups. And it was just a great time growing up and having them in my life. And so he was that big brother to me in the sense that he was very protective. To tell you a little bit about Gene, he was the strongest, fastest guy in the neighborhood. He was the alpha male. He was the toughest. And so people in the neighborhood kind of looked to him and deferred to him because that's how he was. That's how people in the neighborhood, not only did I see him that way as a younger cousin, but that's the way people in the neighborhood saw him. And so, but how, you're probably asking, well, how does this relate to Dads and Dollars? Well, I'll kind of give you the relationship I had with him and what he meant to me is more speaks to being influential in someone's life. You know, as dads and as male figures, we don't know how we influence people. We don't know what we will tap into, whether it be friends or whether it be our kids or whether it be coworkers or people just who see us from afar. We never know what we're tapping into. And Gene was a huge influence on me. So I'll share with you the story that kind of has resonated with me pretty much a good part of my life. As I said, up until I was about 13, I went and hung out most of the time. And even after that, I would go every now and then. But really, around 13, 14, I kind of started to not go as much. But I do distinctly remember around that age group, that age time, we were hanging out. So in Mississippi, which is where I grew up, at 15, you could drive. So they were 3 years older than me, and a lot of the friends were 2 or 3 years older than me. So I'm a 13-year-old kid. We're in this nice car. I can't remember what kind of car it was. It was a Grand Prix maybe. Driving around, listening to music, hanging out. And the car probably had about 5 people in it. I was one of 5 in the car. Gene was sitting in the front seat, on the passenger seat. And we were in the car, and then all of a sudden I start smelling this odor. Man, I didn't know what the odor was. I started smelling it. And so Gene looks at me and tells me, hey, let the window down a little bit. So I let the window down a little bit because the smoke started to be in the car. And I noticed this herbal thing being passed around, in white paper that was kind of burning. And everybody was like, here. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And so then the peer pressure starts, right? So the guys ratchet it up a little bit. Hey, come on, little Stan, you can try it. You can, it's good, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. And then it ratchets up a little bit more. Oh man, don't be a, they say don't be a punk or don't do all. And so Gene, being the protector that he is, he looked back at everybody and said, hey, he doesn't do that. Leave him alone. Now, as I told you earlier, Gene was the alpha male. He was the toughest, baddest guy there. I never got bothered again. No matter how often I came there or whatever, I never got bothered again. Everybody knew that Gene had said, leave me alone. And now here's what that means, or that meant to me and still means to me today. I was never the strongest or the coolest kid of the 3. So Gene and Bo and me, I was never the strongest or the coolest kid. I mean, when we went out skating, I couldn't skate. Man, they were skating backwards. They were dancing while they were skating. I couldn't skate. Went to the park to swim. I couldn't swim. They were all jiving off the diving board, doing great, cool stuff. I'm sitting in the 3 foot just looking at them. Dancing, couldn't dance, can't dance today. Going out, parties, or skating ring, getting girls' phone numbers. That wasn't me. I couldn't get girls' phone numbers. I wasn't the ladies' kid. So I wasn't any of those things. But in that moment, and in my dealings with my cousin, pretty much all of my life, he was telling me, his influence with me was, hey man, you're good. You be you. You're okay. Nobody should push you to do things that you don't want to do. And things that you can't do, we're going skating, come with me. We're going swimming, come with me. We're going out, come with me. That was a level of acceptance that I didn't need from anybody else. He never made me feel bad about it. He never made me think negatively of myself about it. He always made me feel like I belong. He always took care of me. He always protected me. So the influence is, even though he wasn't my father figure, he was a big brother figure for me. that's what we need to do as dads and men and women, and as we have a younger generation, or even as for the younger folks who listen to this, as we need to do with our peers. Let them know that, hey, they can be themselves and it will be okay. It showed me love and acceptance that to this day, years and years later, decades and decades later, my cousin has a piece of my heart that nobody will ever get, because he knew me at that point, and he knew that I couldn't do all those things, wouldn't do all those things, and he loved me anyway, and he wanted me to be a part of it anyway. So he and a lot of other people are responsible for me being on this podcast with you today, and the work that I do with families each day to help them grow their net worth, build generational wealth. He's a big part of that. So, cuz, we mourn your passing, but today I want you to know I'm celebrating your life and your legacy on this show. And I love you, cuz. All right, we're going to change topics. We're going to switch it up a little bit here. All right, we're going to talk about 2023. And today we're going to talk about our financial goals and how do we develop those goals and how do we look at it. So one of the things that we know is that people spend more time, or as much time, planning their vacations than their financial life. Actually, the number is 74% of people spend as much time or more time planning their vacation than their financial lives. And that just got to change. It's got to change. And I know if you listen to this podcast at the beginning, one of my first episodes we were talking about cash. Now, I think cash is a very foundational piece, and that's why I started there. Again, if you haven't listened to the episode, go back and listen to it. But cash is very, very important. And one of the reasons I started there is because the economic forecast at the time is pretty rocky. We know the markets are rocky, the economy is kind of uncertain, interest rates are going up. There's a lot of security in cash. I wanted us to start there and say that's a risk mitigator, that's a wealth builder, it's all of those things. So I wanted to start there because of that foundational piece. But in all reality, good financial planning, wealth building starts with our goals. So we're about to get into the beginning of the year. One of the things I do in November is that's when I start pivoting and I start planning. So I'm planning for 2023 now. So when November hits, it's like that's a planning month. So I would like for you guys to start thinking, hey, November's hitting, let's plan. Let's figure out what we want to do for 2023. And don't wait till January to do it. Let's do it now. So how do we do this? So I think there's 5 key elements there. The first one is your vision. All right. Now, I don't want you to just have a vision for 2023. I want you to think about, where do you want to be 3, 5, 10 years from now? What do you want your financial life to look like? What do you want to be doing 3, 5, 10 years from now? Figure that out. Think about it. Talk with your partner about it. Figure out where you want to be in 3 to 5. Like, what do you want your net worth to look like? How do you want it to be divided up? Do you want it all in your house? Do you want it all in your business? Do you want it all in an investment account? Do you want to divide it up amongst different things? Do you want only real estate? How do you want your net worth to look, and how do you want it to be made up? How much do you want to save? Like, how much money do you want to have in cash and investments? How much money do you want to be liquid? How much are you saving? What's your saving percentage? What's your saving rate? All of those things are important when you're looking at saying, hey, this is where I want to go. I want to go there. When we put a destination in our GPS, we're saying this is where we want to go. And so I want you to start out with putting your destination in your financial GPS. So that's your vision. All right. And then we'll get to the point of what can we do this year to move towards that path. All right. But right now, because what I mean by that is, again, let's use the GPS analogy. Put it in, then they give you the routes. They give you 2 or 3 different routes and they estimate the time to get there. All right. Well, that's what we want to do. We want to put our goals and vision in our financial GPS, and we want to start just kind of looking at from a big picture. What do we need to start doing now? What does it look like? What does that path look like for us? All right. So that's the first thing. Let's look at your vision. Then the second thing is let's align. Let's look at the alignment. How does the vision align up with where you are now? Oh, now that's the part where we're looking in the mirror. That's the ugly part sometimes, right? Because we got to look in the mirror. We got to be very honest with ourselves. Like, all right, so what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? Hey, what about my debt? Am I spending too much? Am I not investing enough? Do I have my estate planning in place? I don't even know what to do. I don't know where to start. Are you preparing for college like you should be? Those are all the things that you need to start examining if you're setting your goals and objectives for the year. Like what are all those parts of your financial life that are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Then we need to look at what are your capabilities. Okay. Have you looked at what income you looking at? I mean, what income you have versus your expenses? Because that difference between your income and your expenses is your fuel. So if you examine yourself and you say, I'm spending too much, then I need to lower my expenses so I can have more fuel to get to where I'm going. So what are your capabilities within that alignment? What are your opportunities? I mean, I don't want you to be morbid here and just think like, hey, I got this vision. I'm trying to align where I am now with where I want to go. You got opportunities. Identify those opportunities. Figure out what are those things that you're doing well now or that you have at your disposal that you can go at full bore. Figure out that. Again, you want to try to get these things in alignment to where you are now in your vision. All right. The third thing is accountability. All right. So we're going to take a few steps to make yourself accountable for this. First thing the teachers always told me in grade school was, set your goals, but a goal is more important when you write it down, right? So let's write down your goals. So that's a form of accountability. You wrote it down, whether you put it in your desk, whether you put it on your dresser, whether you put it in your car, whether you put it on a cork board at work or whatever. You wrote it down. I've had years where I've done my business plan, and quite honestly, I might not look at that. I might complete the business plan by December, and I might not look at it again. Put my action items. I might not look at it again until 6 months later. But when I pull it out 6 months later, I notice that I'm on track. And I wonder how that got done. I ordered it in my mind. I gave myself some accountability. I put it down. I know what my action items are. I'm getting ahead of myself. But yes, write it down. Also, with accountability, share it with a trusted friend or a professional. Now, notice I said trusted friend. You don't share all your business with everybody, but there are people who you can share this with and be safe, meaning that you can be very vulnerable with them. You can share your hopes, dreams, your shortcomings, and you don't have to feel a certain way about it. And they're going to be a positive, honest influence for you, meaning that they're not going to always tell you what you want to hear, but they're going to tell you what you should hear. So find you a circle, and that's a very few people in this world who will probably have a circle of, or maybe more than one or two trusted friends. So find your trusted friend or go get you a professional to help you with that accountability piece. And then also say, have a family meeting. Bring your partner in, bring your kids in, your parents in, or whoever you need to bring in from a family that has a vested interest in where you're trying to go, and help them hold you accountable as well. So when you write it down, you're holding yourself accountable. When you bring in a friend or a professional, you have someone external helping you, but then you got that love and support of your family, and you got some accountability there as well. All right. So the next thing, 4, is let's take action. All right. Really, Nike saying just do it, that shouldn't just be Nike's slogan. That should be all of our slogans. See, I am a very analytical person. My strength is my greatest weakness. I can think about things and I can put pieces to the puzzle together in my head and I can think about different scenarios. I can think, right? And you know what? I can stay thinking all day long and never do anything. Again, it's my greatest strength, but it's also my greatest weakness. So I have to remind myself, Nike, just do it. Sometimes you just got to go for it and you got to move forward. So if I've kind of put my vision out there, I've checked my alignment, make sure my capabilities, I've written down and I'm accountable. I've had these discussions. So now you got to make sure you do it. You got to make sure you implement. You got to make sure you take action. You got to make sure you move forward. For you, that might be different for you than other people because life is so complex. So what's the best way for you to move forward given all the complexities of life? Again, that's where you're being real and honest with yourself, right? What's the best way for you to move forward given all the complexities of your life? Because you know where you need to go now because you got the vision. You understand what your strengths and weaknesses are and what your capabilities. You've written it down. Now you got to take action. What's the best way? Write down all the action items needed to get to your goal. And again, that vision is many years out, but there are a bunch of action items that you need to do to get to your goal. So write them all down, brainstorm, just write them down. Then I want you to prioritize the most important and most impactful ones, put them on top. Go through them, or you can circle them, the most important one, and prioritize them. You know, maybe scratch through the ones that you think are least important or that you might need to do later on in a couple more years. But write them down and then prioritize the most important and most impactful ones. Those are the ones that we're going to try to do early, right? While you're excited, while you're energized, we're going to try to put those actions in place and we're going to hit the ground running as soon as possible so we can start throwing those actions on the table and doing them, just doing them. The most important, most impactful, that's going to get you, that's going to help you get that alignment together and help you move toward that vision. So pick 2 to 3 each month to work on. Go down your list, circle them, say, okay, I'm gonna do these 2 or 3. Don't try to overwhelm yourself. A lot of times that's where the problem is. We overwhelm ourselves. I mean, I do. I overwhelm myself. Um, so 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 go for it, do it, do a 2 or 3 each month, check them off your list, and then do the next 2 or 3 the next month. Okay. So we got our vision, we got everything in alignment with where we are versus where we want to go. We're writing everything down and sharing for accountability purpose, and we're moving and we're taking action. All right, so now we got to do the part that's even tougher, right? We got to be consistent because we got that first 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, who all had New Year's resolution? Don't everybody don't raise your hand at one time. Who makes New Year's resolution? How long does those New Year's resolutions last? Do you make it till MLK birthday? Do you make it to Valentine's Day? Do you make it to spring break? How long do you make it before your New Year's resolution is like, man, I forgot all about it. I'm not even doing it anymore. Go work out. Man, I tell you what, when I used to go to the gym before COVID all the time, I used to hate January at the gym. Everybody's at the gym in January. I'm like, you are not committed. Like, you're taking up my rack and you're not committed. I used to be so peeved in January because everybody makes their New Year's resolution to go work out and they jump in the gym and they try to work out. And by middle of February, I got my rack back again. So we want to be so the last thing here is let's be consistent, right? And when I say be consistent, this goes back to my thing about taking 2 or 3 of them. You know, be reasonable about what consistency looks like for you. You can't be so dramatic with your changing of behavior that allows you to just kind of go through the surge and then fall flat. Figure out what your pace is. Man, give yourself some grace. We don't give ourselves enough grace. Life is so complicated. Things happen. It's not easy, right? I forgot the coach of Duke's name, but one of the things that she had, they got this a viral video going around when she says, life is hard. Just learn to do hard better. We can't be waiting to say, okay, hey, this is going to get easier. This is going to get easier. I'm waiting to this get easier. If I keep working, I'm just going to get easier. No, learn to do hard better. So, but when you're learning to do hard better, you just give yourself some grace while you're learning to do hard better. All right. So be consistent, be reasonable, give yourself some grace, do hard better, and that'll help you be consistent. But also, so if we talk about how those financial elements that'll help you be more consistent, if you focus on your cash flow, you focus on your debt management, and you focus on savings first. Okay. You focus on those areas as you're building your goals and objectives, no matter what stage you're in, whether you're super wealthy or you're just starting out. Focus on those areas. That could be those are the areas that ground you. And then you can move to the next one or the next actions in the other categories. Another thing that will help you with consistency is set certain times to do things every month. Put it on the schedule. Put it on the schedule. Every second Saturday morning, me and the spouse are getting up and we're looking at our goals and objectives, our action items for the month. And we're seeing where we are. We're taking a gauge. Set a certain time and put it on the schedule and be committed to it. All right. So be committed to forming good habits, right? And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take it a little bite at a time, form good habits, and these good habits will change your life. Because Warren Buffett says, chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. All right. So thank you for joining us for this episode of Dads and Dollars. Please subscribe and share with others. And as the brilliant Bomani Jones says, rate us, review us, and give us 5 stars. If you give us 4 stars, I am inclined to believe you are a hater. See you next time.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Dads and Dollars. If you found the information shared today valuable, please share with your friends and family via your social media. If you have a request for a future financial topic for Dads and Dollars, please email us at ask@dadsanddollars.com. For further information on your financial journey, you may purchase The Quest for Financial Independence, 10 areas of your financial planning you should not ignore, by visiting our website, dadsanddollars.com. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Individual tax and legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance reference is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Traditional IRA account owners have considerations to make before performing a Roth IRA conversion. These primarily include income tax consequences on the converted amount in the year of conversion, withdrawal limitations from a Roth IRA, and income limitations for future contributions to a Roth IRA. In addition, if you are required to make a required minimum distribution, RMD, in the year you convert, you must do so before converting to a Roth IRA. Asset allocation does not ensure a profit or protect against a loss. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of these strategies. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. Guests and their companies are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Intellis Advisory Group. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC. Advisory services offered through Intellis Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Intellis Advisory Group and Intellis Wealth Management are separate entities from LPL Financial.